The U.S. Army bought the first ever mass-produced helicopters. The Bell 47 became famous in Korea, where the MASH units used them to transport wounded soldiers back from the front line. In Vietnam, the chopper came of age. The Bell Huey, a troop transporter and gunship, remains the lasting image of the jungle war. Near the end of the Vietnam War, there came an entirely new and terrifying machine, the Cobra. Ultra-streamlined, super-fast, and armed to the teeth, the Cobra was the first of a new generation of choppers designed exclusively for an attack role. Helicopters have become the deadliest weapons in any Army's strike force. This is the Tiger, Europe's answer to the Apache. It's a dual-engine helicopter with immense power and unbelievable agility. Choppers like the Tiger and the Lynx are designed to have such great speed and power for one simple reason: survival. In the technological warfare of the modern battlefield, avoiding detection is the #1 priority.
To survive on the modern battlefield, you have to keep yourself out of radar detection. And to do that, you have to fly low to the ground, in and around obstacles. We fly what we call nap of the earth, which is we try to get as close to the ground as we can. We'll fly sometimes as fast as 140 knots, 5 feet off the ground in open areas.
Nap-of-the-earth flying allows attack helicopters to literally sneak up on the enemy. At this low height, there is no margin for error. But the attack choppers are only one part of the armory. The Kiowa Warrior is the modern light cavalry. It's fast and maneuverable, crammed full of state-of-the-art reconnaissance electronics.
Fixed wing, height the clock. Fixed wing, stand the clock.
It's designed around a unique mast-mounted vision system. This helicopter is the eyes and ears of the Army.
This is the mast-mounted sight, ET we call it because it looks kind of like a face. Television is here, infrared is here. It has a left and right range of motion 190 degrees.
This vision system's power and precision allow the Kiowas to track the enemy stealthily from long range. It can detect and isolate targets up to 5 miles away.
Typically, reconnaissance is characterized by a lot of very slow nap-of-the-earth flying and hovering for a long time in a concealed position. And we can do that in a way that maintains our stealth by hovering behind some trees, a ridge line, and only exposing the mast-mounted sight above the terrain. Take a long, hard, sneaky look at the bad guys, and then develop the situation from there. It's a game of hide and seek, really.
When the targets have been located by the Kiowas, their positions are transmitted back, and the heavy brigade moves in. The Apaches stealthily take up their positions, hunters stalking their unsuspecting prey. Their first weapon is surprise. When the signal is given, they unmask from below the tree line in lethal unison and unleash their awesome destructive force. Within seconds, a fully armed Apache can destroy up to 16 tanks at a range of 5 miles. The Army helicopter is a machine of the land, not the sky. It follows the contours of the land as a ground unit would, day or night, whatever the weather, with deadly speed and stealth. The idea of the rotating wing was developed thousands of years ago in ancient China. The Chinese top is a simple hand-powered toy, the first helicopter. But engines that were powerful enough for manned rotary flight only emerged in the early 20th century. Even then, engine power alone was not enough. Helicopters have a fundamental problem. As the engine spins the rotor blades, it also tries to spin the entire body of the helicopter in the opposite direction. This rotational force is called torque. Most modern helicopters use a small tail rotor to counter this effect, to push in the opposite direction of the torque. Without the tail rotor, the body of the helicopter would spin out of control. A terrifying example of what can happen if the tail rotor fails was caught on camera by a tourist. But the world's first practical helicopter countered the torque problem in a totally different way. The Focke-Wulf 61 had 2 main rotors turning in opposite directions. The torque from each one canceled the other out. In America, Russian immigrant Igor Sikorsky was experimenting with tail rotors. His first success, the VS-300, used 3. Sikorsky was the first to develop the modern lever and stick control system for a single main rotor. And 3 years later, in 1942, he finally perfected a single tail rotor design, creating the classic helicopter configuration of today. He launched a huge publicity campaign throughout America, promoting the helicopter as the family car of the future.
The missus strolls out to get the groceries out of the luggage basket. Watch this. Here is one of the most dramatic examples of the helicopter's ability to operate in restricted space.
But Sikorsky had competition. His greatest rival, Arthur Young, was still flying models. But it was Young's ingenious designs that won the financial backing of businessman Larry Bell. In the late 40s, Bell Helicopter found commercial success with the Bell 47. With its famous bubble cockpit, it became extremely popular. Over 10,000 were built. Other designers started looking for a way into this new industry. One clever new approach was the Syncropter. It had 2 main rotors, slightly offset and synchronized so they could intermesh. That same design is still in use today. The K-Max is nicknamed the aerial truck. It uses the Syncropter configuration on a small, light airframe. With no tail rotor, all the power can be directed into vertical lift. The The result is a helicopter with great lifting capability. By far the most popular alternative to the tail rotor is the tandem configuration, 2 main rotors at front and back of a long fuselage. The most famous example is the Chinook. It's the world's most efficient heavy lifter, capable of carrying over twice its own weight. In just a few decades, helicopters have evolved into an incredible diversity of useful machines. An extraordinary alternative approach to the conventional helicopter is the autogyro. It's a spectacular flyer which uses unpowered rotor blades. Forward thrust comes from a rear propeller. As the craft moves forward, the rotor blades are turned by the air passing through them, like windmill blades. As they turn, they generate lift, and the machine flies. An autogyro needs forward speed to keep the rotors turning and stay in the air. But it's extremely agile and can take off and land almost anywhere.